It came tucked inside a pink envelope with gold foil edges. No return address. Just my name written in her handwriting, tight and slanted like it was always trying to be perfect. I held it in my lap for a while, thinking maybe it was a late thank you card, or one of her overly planned holiday newsletters. But when I peeled it open, it was just a single glossy photo, an ultrasound. And beneath it, in ink just a shade darker than dried blood, "We couldn't have done it without you." My hand didn't shake. Not right away. It was my breath that left first. The kind of silence that feels like the moment between a lightning strike and the thunder. I didn't cry. That came later. Right then, I just stared at it. The grainy shape, the head already bowed like a secret, and thought, I didn't give them this. Not willingly. I was 6 months post-chemo. My hair had started coming back in soft but patchy, like moss on a dying tree. The hospital had given me a final round of paperwork. Insurance leftovers, payment plans, statements. One sheet listed the donations, crowdfunding, direct deposits, names I didn't even recognize. Strangers who believed the story Mom had posted. Our daughter's brave fight. Help us keep her. Hopeful. But the math didn't make sense. I had slept through most of my treatment. Dizzy from pain, drugs, fear. But when I started waking up, truly waking up, I started asking questions. Quiet ones. And then I saw the charge from a fertility clinic. Not mine. Hers. I remember the day I first told them I had cancer. I was sitting at the kitchen table, still in my scrubs. I hadn't gone home yet. I'd gone straight from the oncology wing to them. Mom cried, but it felt rehearsed. Dad stared at his coffee, like it might answer for him. And Emily, she blinked, then said, "But you're still coming to the shower, right?" Her baby shower, the one I was planning, the one I was paying for. When my hair started falling out, she offered me one of her silk scarves. "I have so many from when I traveled to Milan. Take whichever." As if that made it sentimental, she posted a photo of me in it. Tagged it, "Warrior Sister." I wasn't tagged, just her. Just her face beside mine, full of pity glow. The week before the ultrasound photo arrived, she'd messaged me once. A single sentence. "I know things were rough for a while, but you've always been so strong. I hope you know how much you've inspired me." Inspired. They used my pain, literal, bodily pain, to fund her miracle. She wanted to be a mother. And they decided I could survive without the future that was supposed to be mine. They took what was raised to keep me alive, and used it to give her what she couldn't make herself. The ultrasound photo still sits on my desk, not framed, not thrown away. I keep it there like a wound I press on just to remember it hurts. It's not about the baby. It's about what they were willing to bury me for. How easily they all agreed that her beginning mattered more than my middle. The jar used to sit on the bakery counter, big and glassy, with a pale pink ribbon tied around the lid. It had my name written in glitter marker, "Hope for Lena," and a photo taped to the front. I still remember which one they chose, not the hospital bed one. Not the shaved head one. No. They picked the photo of me at the community garden, sunlit, smiling, a scarf covering what the chemo couldn't. "We want people to feel hopeful," Emily had said. I didn't argue. I was too tired then to argue with anything. But I remember thinking, hope for what? Hope that I'd live. Hope that I'd still look like someone worth saving. They collected hundreds, maybe thousands. Neighbors dropped in change. Strangers stuffed in 20s and folded up. Prayers. And I remember how Mom would text updates to the family group chat like she was reporting weather. Another $150 this weekend. Our girl is so loved. God provides, keep sharing her story. They use that story like currency. The owl. Jar disappeared after my 3rd round of chemo. I assumed they'd taken it home. To count. To save. But weeks passed, and I never saw it again. I asked once, quietly, like everything I did back then. Emily was the one who answered. "Oh, Mom said it was too depressing to keep out. People started looking sad every time they saw it." Depressing. Apparently, dying was bad for business. It was only after the ultrasound photo arrived that I went, looking for it. For the jar. I didn't know what I was hoping to find. Maybe the money, miraculously untouched. Maybe a note, an apology, a scrap of proof that it hadn't all been taken. But what I found was worse. In the back of the coat closet, behind a pile of gift bags and old wrapping paper rolls, I found the lid. Just the lid. The pink ribbon had been torn. The glitter lettering half scratched off, and taped beside it, a sticky note in Emily's handwriting. For transfer, IVF clinic. That was it. No explanation. No shame. Just an arrow from my sickness to her salvation. I drove back to my apartment with the lid beside me in the passenger seat. It rattled every time I turned, like it was mocking me. Or maybe reminding me that I was still here, still driving, still breathing, still the afterthought. I didn't cry until I got inside. Not loud, not even out of anger. It was the kind of crying that felt like being hollowed out, like air leaking from a tire, slow, steady, almost polite. I haven't spoken to them since, not properly. Not beyond "I'm busy" or "I'll let you." No, but I know they're planning the baby shower. Emily loves themes. She's probably already ordered pastel banners and a cake that bleeds pink when you cut it. And I wonder, will she thank me at the party? Will she look around the room, raise her glass and say, "We couldn't have done it without my sister's cancer. I've kept the jar lid. It's in my kitchen drawer now, next to my receipts and half-used candles. I touch it sometimes, like a scar. They wanted me to be the story. But I think I'm finally learning how to be the ending. It came through the mail. Real mail. Not a text, not an Evite, but a pearlescent envelope with a wax seal in a shade that matched her nursery palette. Lavender, of course. My name was printed in looping font, like it had been written by someone who still thought of me as family. I stared at it on my doormat for a long time before picking it up. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I set it on the kitchen counter, just beneath the jar lid. They looked like a match set somehow, a beginning born from an ending. 3 days passed. Each morning I'd walk by that envelope. Each night I'd avoid touching it, as if it might burn. On the 4th day, I opened it. And I swear, the scent of lavender perfume lifted out of the paper like a ghost. There was a watercolor illustration of a baby elephant in a floral wreath. Below it, the words, "Let's shower Emily with love. She's waited so long for this little miracle." The rest was the usual: time, date, registry info, and then the final line, printed in italics, smaller than the rest. Gifts welcome. No pink, please. We're waiting to be surprised. No mention of me. Not as a host. Not even as a donor of the life she now cradled like a prize. Just an invitation, as if I were any other guest. I didn't RSVP, but I didn't throw it away either. I slid it into the same drawer as the jar lid. Later that week, she texted, "Hope you can make it. We're doing a big reveal, would love for you to be part of it." Part of it. The same way I was part of her pregnancy. The same way my body had been part of the fundraiser, part of the campaign, part of the sacrifice. Like I was a puzzle piece she only needed when the corners wouldn't fit. I typed out a dozen replies. None of them felt right. One said, "Do I bring a gift or just another piece of my body?" Another, "Can I come bald again? Might win me some pity points." And one just said, "No." But I didn't send any of them. I left her on red. Because silence, the kind they used against me, finally felt like mine to own. Instead, I went shopping. Not for her. For me. I bought myself a ceramic lamp for the living room, a new sweater in charcoal gray, and a bottle of rose-scented laundry, soap that reminded me of everything I was never allowed to smell like in the chemo wing. I stood in the checkout line and felt something strange. Not guilt, not peace, but presence. Like I was finally back inside my own life. The morning of the shower came with drizzle. I made coffee, put on the new sweater, and opened my laptop. I didn't check social media. I didn't look at stories, or group tags or family photos. I opened a blank document and titled it, "The Girl Who Paid for Miracles." It wasn't that I planned to post it, not at first. The words came like breath at a mirror, slow, foggy, forming shapes I wasn't sure I meant to leave behind. But they kept coming. I typed for hours, sipping cold coffee and listening to the rain trace thin lines down my window. Each paragraph felt like peeling back a bandage that had been left too long. Sticky. Sour. Necessary. When I was sick, people said I was strong. They said I inspired them, that I reminded them how precious life is. They raised money in my name, posted pictures of me, told stories about my fight, stories I hadn't even told myself yet. I never asked for any of it. I never asked to be turned into someone's campaign. But I was grateful, because I thought maybe I mattered. I paused. My hand hovered over the keyboard. Was I angry? Was I bitter? The truth was smaller than that, quieter. It was something like grief, shaped like recognition. Then I got better, slowly, and the jar disappeared. The money disappeared. I asked once. I was told it had been reallocated, not to me, not even to my recovery, but to someone else's hope. Hope, they said, isn't selfish. Hope, they said, should be shared. I stared at those two sentences, a long time, because somewhere in them was the real betrayal. Not that they used my name, not that they took the money, but that they used my pain as permission for someone else's dream, like I was a pit stop, a story arc, a cautionary tale with a convenient end. I wasn't invited to be part of the decision, just the body it came from. But I saw the photo, the one inside the pink envelope. I know what was built from what was taken. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not angry anymore. But if you gave, if you prayed, If you believed I mattered, I want you to know I did too, and I still do. I didn't tag her. I didn't name names. I didn't post a picture. Just black text on white background. And when I clicked post, my hands were steady. Steadier than they had been in months. Within minutes, the likes began. Then hearts. Then the comments. Cautious at first. Then furious. Then heartbroken. Wait. Was this your fundraiser? Are you serious right now? I gave money for your chemo. I didn't agree to fund someone else's baby. This broke me. I'm so sorry, Lena. You mattered the whole time. I didn't reply to any of them. I just watched. Emily messaged me that night. A single text. No hey, no apology. Just, did you really need to do that? I stared at her message. And after a long pause, I finally replied, Did you? It was painted lavender, like everything she touched. Like the wedding bouquet she made Mom reassemble 3 times. Like the velvet dress she wore to Dad's retirement party, even though it was supposed to be my night too. Now it coated the nursery walls. Softer than lilac, colder than violet. A color that pretended to be gentle while swallowing every edge. She posted it 3 days after my Facebook entry. A carousel of photos. Crib, rocking chair, embroidered name banner. She didn't say mine. Not once. But I recognized the blanket draped over the arm of the chair. It was the one I used when my body shook through the second round of chemo. The knitted one Mom said smelled like medicine and memory. I'd left it behind when I moved out, folded carefully, almost ceremonially, on the foot of the bed I once thought of as safe. Now it was rolled into aesthetic. Now it matched her filters. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel the weight in my chest this time. I just stared at it and thought, so even that's hers now. Not because she needed it, but because I wouldn't. Aunt Lila commented on the post. Looks like a miracle room. So proud of you, Em. Cousin Jared added a row of hearts. Even my mother shared it to her own page with, God's plan always provides. No one mentioned me. No one said how the miracle was bankrolled. No one asked where the original prayer went once the new one bloomed. A week later, I got a voicemail. Mom. Her voice was soft and slightly breathless, the way it always got when she was trying not to sound guilty. Lena, sweetheart, I just want you to know we're all praying for peace, okay? For healing. For love to win in the end. I know you've been, well, going through things. But this baby, she really is a blessing. For all of us. I hope you can see that someday. I really, really do. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't say my name again. Just hung up with a soft sigh, like she was tired of trying to love the daughter who didn't disappear quietly. That night, I pulled the blanket from the nursery photo up on my screen, zoomed in, looked at the frayed edge that still had the tag, my initials stitched in crooked thread. I remembered how I sewed that tag myself, just after the first hospital stay, to remind myself I was still me. It felt strange now, that something meant to comfort me was being used to stage someone else's story, like watching someone play a song they didn't write on an instrument you bled for. I didn't comment on the post. I didn't message Emily. Instead, I wrote something on a small piece of paper, folded it 3 times, and slipped it into the same drawer where I kept the ultrasound envelope and the fundraiser jar lid. It said, "You don't get to be the beginning, middle, and end. Not this time." It was like snow, That silence. Not cold exactly. Not anymore. But thick, soft, covering everything. No arguments. No tears. No slammed doors. Just absence. And it spread slowly, until even the memories made no sound. 3 weeks had passed since my post. 2 since her voicemail. I hadn't heard from anyone else. Not Dad. Not the cousins who used to tag me in birthday memes. Not even Julia, my once best friend who had stood beside me at the fundraiser table with a clipboard and false eyelashes, convincing strangers to help. She shared the nursery post, though. Captioned it, "Our girl's gonna be such a good mom. God's timing." She didn't tag me either. I noticed. I started sleeping better. Not because I was happier, but because no one expected anything of me anymore. Not a reply. Not a gift. Not forgiveness. My phone stayed quiet. I stopped, keeping it face down. There was one night I nearly called her. I'd had a strange dream. Emily and I as kids again, riding our bikes through our old neighborhood, racing past the mailboxes. She turned back to yell, "Come on, slowpoke!" But in the dream, I couldn't pedal. My legs wouldn't move. And she didn't wait. She just kept going, laughing into the wind that never reached me. I woke up sweating. I sat at the edge of the bed and thought about calling her. Not to scream. Not to demand. Just to ask, "Did you even think of me when you signed the check?" But then I remembered the ultrasound photo, the blanket, the pink envelope with the thank you written like a joke, and I realized she had. She had thought of me, just not as a sister, not even as a person, just a means, just a bridge, a body that could be borrowed for a dream she didn't want to pay for herself. That's the thing no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't come with fire. It comes with dust. A quiet settling of what used to be. The silence between us grew into something I could live inside, a place of my own. Not peace exactly, but clarity. I started writing again, not just the Facebook post, but little entries every morning. Some about the chemo, some about the dreams, some about the way she used to hold my hand when we crossed streets as kids, back when I thought she'd always look out for me. I didn't write her as the villain. I didn't write me as the hero. I just wrote the truth. And it felt like reclaiming breath. One afternoon, I saw a text come through. From a number I didn't save anymore. Just a name, Emily. It said, "Can you come by? I want to talk, just us. Please." 3 words I never thought she'd use again. Just us. No baby. No mom. No posturing. Just silence. And maybe a sentence too late. I didn't say yes. Not right away. I left her message unopened for a full day. I read it from the lock screen like it might disappear if I didn't blink. "Can you come by?" She didn't say what for. Didn't mention the baby. Didn't apologize, just, "Please." Like a whisper trying to make itself matter. It rained the morning I went. Same drizzle as the day the ultrasound arrived. Soft, insistent. The kind that doesn't soak you, just lingers. I wore the charcoal sweater, the one I bought the day of her shower. My armor, not flashy, but warm enough to hold me still. I didn't bring anything. No cookies, no old photos, no memory of who used to be. She opened the door slower than I expected. Her belly was round now, tucked under a stretched lavender knit. She didn't smile. Didn't hug me. She just said, "You came." And I answered, I did. We sat in the kitchen. Not the living room, not the nursery. Like two women who forgot how to be sisters. The kettle whined softly behind her. She didn't offer me tea. She stared at her hands for a while, twisting a ring she never used to wear. Her nails were chipped, the polish cracked. At the edges, it was the first time I'd seen her look uncomposed. "I didn't think you'd answer," she finally said. I didn't respond. Let the silence do what I couldn't. She looked up. Her voice cracked on the next words. "I don't know how to fix it." I kept my hands folded, kept my eyes on the tiny crack in the table's laminate. The one Dad said he'd repair last summer and never did. "You don't fix this," I said. "You acknowledge it." "I didn't mean you did." She froze, swallowed. Her hand pressed to her belly. Instinct or guilt, I couldn't tell. I didn't know they were using it. The fundraiser. Not until later. And by then, it was just happening. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how careful she was to separate herself from the decision. Like she had just tripped and fallen into a fertility clinic. "You didn't stop it," I said. She looked away. "No, I didn't." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Outside, the rain picked up, tapping against the kitchen window like someone else wanted in. Then she asked, "Do you hate me?" I didn't answer, because hate is too easy, too sharp, too final, and what I felt wasn't hate. It was older than that, wider. It was knowing that we were never going to be the same, that even if the baby was born in sunlight, something between us would always live in shadow. I stood up. Her eyes followed me like she wanted to grab onto something but didn't know how. "I hope she never feels how I felt," I said. "That's the only blessing I'm willing to give." And I left. No slammed door, no goodbye. Just the sound of my shoes on their tile, and the silence that finally felt like mine. I wrote it 2 weeks after the visit. Longhand, on real paper. Folded once, neatly. Tucked into an envelope I never sealed. It sits in the top drawer of my nightstand. The same one that holds the jar lid, the ultrasound photo, and the invitation. A quiet archive of all the things I survived. Emily. I've been trying to find the version of us that used to whisper under blankets and share secrets like they were gold. I've looked for her in the kitchen you remodeled, in the nursery you built, in the ultrasound you sent me like a trophy. She's not there. And maybe she never was. Maybe we were always just two stories growing in the same garden, never meant to bloom at the same time. You took something from me, and it wasn't just money. It wasn't just the fundraiser. It was the belief that I mattered. To you, to Mom, to the family that used my pain like a coupon code. You called your child a miracle, but I was the one who lived. And I'm still here, still living, still soft, even after all of it. I don't hate you. That would make you the main character again. I just don't need you anymore. I didn't sign it, because I didn't write it for her. I wrote it for the girl who used to stare at the IV pole and wonder if she'd still be remembered when the hair fell, when the bones thinned, when the camera stopped flashing. I wrote it for the version of me who thought survival would guarantee love. It didn't, but it gave me something quieter, stronger, boundaries. I never went back to that house. Not when the baby was born, Not when the group chat exploded with heart emojis and new photos. Not even when Mom messaged, "You'll regret not being part of this." She was wrong. Some stories don't need to be watched. Some endings are better. Read from far away. I light candles now, every Sunday. Not for faith, or ritual, or superstition. Just for stillness. To remember I have a body. To remind myself that it's mine again. Sometimes I whisper my own name out loud, just to feel it settle back into the room. I still have the blanket. I went back for it one night when no one was home. I didn't knock, didn't leave a note. Just opened the window to my old room and took back what they thought I'd forgotten. It's on my bed now, a little smaller, a little rougher, but still mine. Some people walk away in anger. I walked away in knowing. And in that quiet retreat, I didn't find revenge. I found return. To myself. To peace. To the soft, unlit place where survival finally feels like a beginning.